So our guy Brian here from the Whatever podcast had been a subject of, very serious matter over here. Apparently, a big news channel or whatever recently covered him and said he deliberately brings women onto his podcast to make fun of them. So today we'll be watching to see if that's true or not. Yeah, let me roll the clip.
Yeah, I mean, just so for my personal thing, look, I know it actually does lose me women that I'm not willing to pay for first dates. But at the end of the day, I don't want to feel like a sucker. I've been there before. I don't want to do
something you're dealing with personally?
Yeah, if there's something I can directly tell about Brian is that he's genuinely just another insecure guy who has a lot of problems.
What do you mean?
Like, is this a
This
problem?
is something that pretty much
that you
all
have?
men are dealing with.
Actually, I have to say you're quite wrong there, Brian. Many people do not have time to watch your podcast and be angry at women. Because why? Because of the mere reason that most people don't have these problems. This is just proof that the only people who have time to watch these podcasts are people who are just, sad that they were rejected by women in high school. They are just pathetic people who don't take accountability of why those women may not be attracted to them in the first place.
Let me ask you, how do you get out of this? Where do you go from this? You don't want to feel like a sucker. I don't know if this happened in the past. What now? How do I get you married?
So Brian once idiotically admitted that he doesn't want marriage, as if he hopes there's a woman who will I don't know, stick by, knowing that this guy is not even dedicated to anything that involves heavy commitment. Jeez, dude, you know nothing about women. Women want to get married. There's no way they'll stick around if you don't marry them eventually.
Well, so okay, we'll get to the marriage thing in a little
Okay.
bit because I know you wanted to talk about marriage.
How unsurprising. Brian is pivoting away from a discussion he started.
How do you move? How do you move on? How do you navigate this? Do you go to the park and you hang out at the park?
Oh, like how do I do dates?
I
How
just
do you
thought
do
of such a
dates
good
and invest
point.
and also invest no money because you're scared that she might?
Sure. Okay. Oh,
What does that
I'll
look
put
like?
you on some game. What did
Okay,
you have to say?
Even the guy who's sitting next to him is scratching his head there for a bit. He's like, what, dude?
So if you want so badly to be fair and not pay the girl's meal, doesn't that kind of make the girl have less respect for herself and less self-esteem to be willing to go half and half on a first date? So like, does that mean you're setting yourself up to be with less lower value girls because you refuse to appreciate their value from the beginning?
Yes.
You mentioned men should be gentlemen. Where are the ladies?
We're right here.
But you just said you're an
The lack of self-esteem from these women just says it all. Like,
escort. I mean, like, you're not a lady.
Excuse me?
there goes Brian with the headshot.
You're a female, but you're not a lady.
Damn. Look at how shocked those other women are. They are like, what the? How dare you?
What makes me not a lady?
Well, I suppose I'm not a gentleman.
Well, at least on this situation, he was ethically, consistent.
Because I got in a shitty situation at 18 and did what I had to do to survive and pay my bills.
Yeah, you sure as hell got into a pretty messy situation, alright.
That doesn't undo the fact that, look, you
That
are
doesn't
not
make
a
me
lady.
not a lady. I'm a survivor. I'm someone that's really strong. Like, I don't understand how I wouldn't be a lady.
Guys, sometimes we have to acknowledge that life is unfair. We all have been dealt different cards in life. So yes, some women do not have a choice but to sell their body. It's true. So it's quite unfair of us to look at every sex worker and be like, you're such a disgusting person, you don't deserve. So Brian should be careful about how he says things, like, to be honest, because that's quite very insensitive of him.
Do you think we don't deserve that
That's
because
just a
we're sex
man.
workers?
Hmm?
Do you think we don't deserve that because we're sex workers?
It's not a question of deserving and not deserving, but what I'm trying to point out is that as sex workers, you are not traditional women.
As usual, Brian pivots away from the question. He should have said yes or no. Yeah, but I guess Brian doesn't have a real sense of how the real world works. He lives his life based on studies.
What I feel
If
like
you
you're
find that
saying-
offensive that I don't consider you traditional women, I'm sure you can admit yourself
well, you
you're
don't
not a
even consider
traditional
me
woman.
a lady. I just figure you think that I should go like be on the street corner
That's
or
not
something.
well. That's not what I said. But you're not.
What do we mean by lady? What's a lady?
yeah.
well,
What is a
lady-
lady?
Good question, seemingly how both of you don't know what that is. So yeah, good question.
So then,
So by virtue of being a sex worker, and this isn't me trying to attack sex workers, but
That but sounds very suspicious.
you are not traditional. Ergo, you are not a lady.
Well, you're not a gentleman. You do a podcast.
That's
That's
fine.
not traditional.
Well, I don't think my specific.
Yeah, a classic trait with Brian as usual is he starts a debate. He sort of looks like he was winning it and then he gets easily defeated like a small masturbating boy that he secretly is.
let me ask you this: what job ought a traditional man have, if not podcasting?
A business.
This
a
is-
businessman.
He's running a business.
This is a business.
He could
That sounds very insecure.
provide for a woman and 5
CEO.
kids. He's a
C-
CEO
I-
of
Well, so
of
could I. I
whatever
could
Inc.
provide for kids too. And a man.
But the metric. I mean, your.
Seems like you don't know yourself there, Brian.
I
Yeah, they always
disagree.
do.
I think a man paying for dinner is looking for something more out of a woman other than just her sweet.
Well,
I disagree.
As you
I
said.
disagree.
Actually, I disagree.
The take that lumberjack Bob just said right there exposes how much of a virgin he is.
Wait, do you not talk to girls before you take them on a date?
Oh, right. This comes back to your question. Like, okay, how does this actually
What's the
play
game?
out?
Yeah.
How does it look?
It's the strat.
Okay, so well, first off,
Yep, she got him right there. Brian is just a guy who thinks he knows it all about women. Meanwhile, he's only dated like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut the video right here. I don't want you guys to see more of this pathetic bullshit. Just subscribe to my channel. Yeah, see ya.